Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something huge, bioethics. With technology just rocketing forward, we're talking gene editing, AI, you name it, bioethics is basically the rulebook, the moral compass for humanity's next big steps. So yeah, let's get right into it. This is really the central question of our time, isn't it? I mean, we're living in this incredible moment. Some call it the fourth industrial revolution, where science is doing things that feel impossible, like almost every single day. But with all that power, our moral compass is really getting put to the test. And that tension, that space right between can we do this and should we do this? Well, that's exactly where bioethics comes in. Okay, so how on earth do we make these incredibly tough decisions? Well, the good news is we're not just making it up as we go. Modern bioethics is built on four solid pillars. These ideas actually came out of a major US government report and then were polished up by philosophers to create this kind of universal framework that helps guide us. So, let's break them down one by one. All right, first up is autonomy, and this one is pretty straightforward. It's all about personal control. It means that you, me, every single person has the fundamental right to decide what happens to our own bodies and our own data. And that decision has to be based on clear, honest information with absolutely no pressure. You can see why this is just the bedrock of trust for any kind of research, right? Next, we have beneficence. Now, this one's a little different. It goes beyond just, avoiding harm. It's actually a proactive duty to do good. It means researchers have an obligation to design their work so that it actually benefits people, both the individual participant and hopefully society as a whole, all while making sure any risks are as low as they can possibly be. And that leads us perfectly into its partner principle, non-maleficence. You've almost certainly heard some version of this before, right? First, do no harm. That's it. This is the absolute core promise of all medicine and all research ethics. It is the non-negotiable, rock-solid commitment to protect people from any unnecessary risk or suffering, period. And finally, the fourth pillar, justice. This one is all about fairness. It basically says that the burdens of research, the risks, shouldn't fall on one group of people while the benefits, the breakthroughs, go to a completely different group. The whole point is that scientific progress has to be shared fairly, equitably across all of society. So, okay, we've got these four really powerful principles: autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. But who actually makes sure people follow them? I mean, who's the referee here? Who keeps scientists in check? Well, meet the Institutional Review Board, or IRB for short. Think of them as the official gatekeepers of ethical research. Before any study involving humans can even get off the ground, the IRB does a deep dive, a rigorous analysis of the risks versus the potential benefits. Their entire job is to make sure that the search for new knowledge never comes at the expense of an individual's safety. And a huge part of that is making sure the whole informed consent process is crystal clear and totally transparent. Okay, now this is where things get really, really interesting. Because these classic principles, right, they're being seriously stress tested by technologies that just a few years ago felt like pure science fiction. These new tools are creating what some experts are calling ethical shocks to the whole system. Let's take CRISPR gene editing, for example. On one hand, you've got what's called somatic editing. That's basically using it to treat a disease in one person right now. And for the most part, that's widely accepted. But then there's germline editing, and this is totally different. This means making changes to DNA that can be passed down, inherited by future generations. And this is what raises those huge, profound fears about things like designer babies and even echoes of eugenics. It's a very, very clear ethical line in the sand. And then you've got stuff like biobanking. I mean, we're talking massive, massive collections of DNA and other biological samples. They are an absolute gold mine for researchers trying to create personalized precision medicine. But they also create a massive challenge for that very first principle we talked about, autonomy, right? How do you keep control over your personal data once it's locked away in one of these giant vaults? Well, here's the problem. Even when researchers de-identify the data, strip out your name and stuff, today's super powerful analytics can sometimes put the pieces back together and trace it right back to you. It's a huge risk. So to solve this, a really cool new idea has come along called dynamic consent. So instead of just signing a piece of paper one time and that's it, this is a living digital platform. It gives you, the donor, lifelong control to see and manage exactly how your data is being used, for what research, and when. And look, this isn't just about futuristic tech in some isolated lab. bioethics is playing a super critical role right now in solving some of the biggest challenges we face globally. Everything from making sure clinical trials are fair to dealing with the rise of artificial intelligence. And its reach is it's huge. Bioethics gives us the tools to prevent things like ethics dumping. That's a terrible practice, where research that's banned in one country gets shipped off to another with weaker rules. It's also absolutely crucial for what's being called algorithmic justice, making sure the AI tools we're building for medicine don't have hidden racial or gender biases. And on a really personal level, it's the framework that helps guide nurses and doctors through those incredibly complex, emotional end-of-life care decisions. But that fight for justice, it is far from over. Just think about this for a second. In the United States, Black patients often make up less than 10%, less than 10 of the people participating in clinical trials for new drugs. And that's not just a number on a chart. That is a systemic failure to fairly share the benefits and the burdens of medical progress. And you have to understand, there's a deep, grave historical reason for this mistrust. The absolutely horrific Tuskegee syphilis study, where for decades, researchers knowingly left hundreds of Black men untreated just to watch the disease progress. It's a somber, painful reminder of exactly why these ethical frameworks and these gatekeepers, the IRBs, aren't just a nice idea. They're absolutely essential. So, where does all of this leave us? Well, as we look to the future, one thing becomes crystal clear. Understanding bioethics isn't just for philosophers in an ivory tower. It is becoming a vital, practical skill for literally everyone involved in science, tech, and healthcare. I mean, just think about it for a second. As AI gets better and better at crunching the numbers and collecting the data, what's left for us? The uniquely human skill is going to be moral oversight. The future leaders, the most valuable people in the room, won't be the ones who can sequence a genome the fastest. They'll be the ones who have the wisdom to pause and ask, should we do this? And who really benefits? That, right there, is how you future-proof your career. And that's really the core message here. At the end of the day, bioethics is the bridge. It's what connects raw scientific progress with actual human flourishing. It's the thing that ensures our amazing, relentless drive for innovation doesn't end up sacrificing our humanity or our basic rights along the way. And so, we end up right back where we started. The key question isn't can we anymore. Honestly, technology will almost always find a way to get it done. The real challenge, the one that falls to all of us, scientists, leaders, everyday citizens, is to constantly ask, should we? And maybe even more important than that, who gets to decide?